So who would like to run the meeting?
We should just let the AI do it. Brian's coming in. Let's get ChatGPT to write us minutes without having the meeting. We can make the votes decide on all the motions. We can just do everything a lot quicker.
I think you're right. I bet I could try that. I could ask it to write the motions. I bet they'd come out right.
There'd be one that's kind of weird, right? How it does the hallucinations. It'll be one where we bought like a, swimming pool in Atlanta or something.
I was talking with my son who does a lot of work in research in medicine, but
yeah.
He said that it is so powerful that they can actually write a synopsis of an entire medical report by ChatGPT or AI. He said it is so effective. He said it's amazing how accurate it is.
Yeah. Especially in the medicine field where you've got such huge amounts of data that are just so hard to comb through. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Right. That's precisely how it is. They, in fact, have, and this turns out to be GlaxoSmithKline. As it turns out, they have several hundred people actually working on AI as a way to actually do drug discovery. It's really very interesting. This is a real phenomenon. It's not imaginary. Yeah.
Susan, you're muted.
Ralph, I said I listened to a really interesting podcast about using AI to come up with new drugs.
Were you convinced?
Fascinating. Just the way that they could eliminate things so quickly,
Yeah.
Just that would take like 10 or 15 years of individual people doing the research.
That's right. Yeah. It is, and it's a real revolution, and it's hard to believe how significant it's going to be, but it will be very significant. A lot of potential for danger too, but also enormous benefit in lots of ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, Brian, while you were gone, we decided to apply all of capital budget to AI research. So,
well, I can tell you, with a daughter in college, it's very frustrating for some to watch it used to avoid doing work, which seems to be its broadest use case at this point. But certainly the potential for future discovery is there. Bear with me. I just had the frustrating experience of having to update my Zoom when I should have been opening this meeting. So why don't we start with a roll call attendance. And again, my apologies. I can't even believe I went to log in and Zoom decided it was going to force me to reload the app. Hopefully all had a more graceful entry, but time's at 6:07. Let's start with a roll call attendance. Corey Evans.
Corey Evans here.
Mike Dick.
Mike Dick here.
Francine Lyons.
Francine Lyons here.
Susan Franklin.
Susan Franklin here.
Ralph Dormitzer.
Ralph Dormitzer here.
And Brian Host here. Okay. We have a small number of items on the agenda for tonight. This is mostly cleanup as a result of the fact that the select board met the night after we did. We also had, I think, some items that we discussed, but we couldn't vote because it wasn't clear that they were going to be on the agenda. I think most of that's resolved. So in terms of the agenda, first up is the Town Hall Mass Architectural Access Board study. And we discussed this, last week, but what wasn't clear it was going to come. Michelle, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Select Board has voted to both put it on and to support it and to recommend an item for 20,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I think it's as anticipated, but Select Board has made the official step that was missing the last time that we as a team spoke. So I don't know if there's any further deliberation. I open the floor to anyone that has any questions or comments.
I received an email earlier today that mentioned 2 items.
Yep. Correct. Yeah,
Are
I
you
think
gonna-
that, so Michael, this, just to follow the agenda, I mean, we can discuss the two items together, but the second item is not listed on the agenda. And so I think we're gonna have to cover that one under that last item, which is items not reasonably anticipated, or maybe even the prior one, review all outstanding items. But I mean, here we are. I think we're gonna end up discussing both of these for sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure we cover it.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'd comment on the 20,000 is that I would suggest rather more precise language, that's all. And I'm not, I mean, I could offer a motion if you want, but I
Yeah,
can't do it, you know, but
I completely agree, Ralph. I was just speaking out loud and not making a motion.
Yeah.
If deliberation is complete and people feel it's time for a motion, certainly I'll entertain that.
I'll take it, Ralph, since you're five this time. I'd make a motion that capital budget recommend $20,000 to complete an MAB study for 41 Highland Avenue.
Second,
All right.
can I amend that, Corey? Would you mind if I did that?
I would amend it. Yeah, whatever. I'm happy to amend it if you got something.
Okay, I wanted to scrub the word study and make it an access assessment of Massachusetts 521 CMR in accordance with the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. I wanted to make it quite specific rather than say study, because you really want an access assessment. If you don't mind my putting those kinds of words in, I felt it was more important to be very specific and also to mention 521 CMR. You don't have to, but I think it helps a lot so that people know exactly what we're expecting, which is a real assessment. So that's all.
I've got no objections. I feel like that's a clerical clarification and useful. So as long as my second doesn't mind, I will amend said motion.
yeah, second,
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. All in favor? Corey Evans,
Corey Evans, aye.
Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Mike Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
and Brian Host, aye. Okay, one down. We're flying tonight, folks. It's a good feeling. We may get slowed down a little bit on the next one. Town Hall roof. So we voted this net of the $100,000 that we understand is a remaining balance from a prior appropriation. And it's my understanding that approach may not be the right one, or the one that was passed by the select board. So Michelle, can you just give us an update as to where we are and what we actually need to consider in terms of voting something through?
So to the best of my knowledge, what I was told is we need to appropriate the entire spend at the 325, even though we are going to take the $100,000 from the prior appropriation. But
Yep.
here at Capitol, we need to approve the entire spend.
Yeah.
Just to remain consistent with what we've done in the past.
Okay. And would we
okay.
note the 100K as, as coming out of, coming out of the prior appropriation? I mean, typically what we've done is we've released prior appropriations back into the stabilization fund, capital stabilization fund, and then reappropriated the full amount for the next project. But I'm just trying to think how we actually latch onto that 100K to make sure that it goes towards this project, and we're only, we're appropriating the full amount, but 100 of it's actually coming from the prior source.
Right. I mean, I think you can do that within the language of the actual article. So if you want me to share my screen, I can show you how I have it written. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's fine. I guess let me back up. Is it true that I guess I should start with the question that, and others please jump in here. I'm just trying to focus on the mechanics of this 100K. But is it true that 100K is actually available to fund this roof? Or is that 100K not available, and the 325 has to come out of the 500 that's kind of earmarked in the
Nope.
in the stabilization fund?
The way I understand it is the $100,000 is available, and it's coming from the prior appropriation made to town hall and just was not used.
Michelle, can you promote Francine?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So the prior appropriation for 100 was not for the roof, it was just for town hall.
Correct. It was just for town hall, not specific to the roof. I believe it was actually for the CM at risk, but because we didn't move through the whole project, we didn't use that money that was allocated to that CM at risk. We used a portion of it, not all of it. And I believe that's where the 100 comes from.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here. I think if that's actually an appropriation, we need to reappropriate it.
And I think it may be reappropriated in another article.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that would be great. Do you know how it's going to be reappropriated? Will that just be reappropriated back into the capital stabilization fund for, given we're appropriating this full amount, or how?
I believe that's the intent. It goes back into the capital stabilization fund to fund this 325 request.
Okay. All right. Were you going to share language, Michelle?
Oh, sorry. I was. Can you see the screen?
I see it in an extraordinarily tiny version of a spreadsheet.
Oh,
It's quite small.
is it? Okay, sorry.
If you want us to vote everything, just next time give us this form.
This isn't 4-point font. This is like 0.4 font.
Really?
Yeah.
Michelle,
Okay.
don't do the maximize window. Do the top right and make it a square instead of a wide thing.
There we go.
Is that better?
Not
A little
really.
No?
For us,
You have to make it less wide, Michelle. So you have to make the window less wide. So don't undo the full screen thing. So it's not. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
good, good,
Does
good.
that help you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, big difference.
Okay,
The dinosaurs can see this.
so this line item right
Speaking
here.
personally. Okay.
And our previous appropriation was 225.
Correct.
Really know what to make of this.
You want to just,
Michelle,
sure, just throw out a motion and get this thing moving. I think, so we can probably just put some language in just to get it moving. So,
Yeah, can I just suggest that you remove the hyphen and replace it with the word including?
okay, great.
All right, so I'll make to per our suggestion, I'll make a motion that we amend the previous appropriation of $225,000 for roofing at 41 Highland to $325,000, which is inclusive of the $100,000 previous appropriation for town hall repairs.
That sounds good. Again, can I make a suggestion for you, Corey? And I don't want to change a
Please.
lot, but I'm getting really specific these days. I think it might be helpful to say plans, specifications, and installation of roof and related materials. In other words, the reason I'm doing stuff like that is I'm saying we tend not to be so specific, but I do think this one is really clear that we should know that it has plans, it has specifications, and the installation and related materials are included. So I don't want to overwork it, but I'm getting sticky on these things now. So
I've got no objections to that change, so I will just attack that onto my motion since it hasn't been seconded yet.
okay, appreciate that. Great.
Yep.
You'll maybe see me doing this on every one of them just to make sure we're very specific on what we're actually recommending. So
You're paying attention. I'm all for it. So great. Yeah.
okay.
You know, we can, I mean, if you want to save some space, you could remove the word estimate. I mean, all these are estimates. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do you have any further deliberation before we roll call vote? Okay, let's do it. Corey Evans,
Corey Evans, aye.
Michael Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
and Brian Host, aye. So town hall roof is done. Okay. Next up is citizens petition. It's on the agenda, which means we have the ability to vote this, but not the obligation, just to be clear. We hit this at the end of a very long marathon session last week. And I don't know if people want to pick this up or not, but it's here, it's on the agenda. Corey circulated the language that's going into the warrant, both the actual citizens petition itself, as well as the introductory language in the warrant. It doesn't come with the motion per se at this point. And
Jump in and make a suggestion here.
Anyone, please.
Okay, great. I think that to a large degree, what you will have voted by the end of this day will have fulfilled most of what the citizens petition wanted anyway. In other words, I see each one of these items, the roof is been approved. That's what we wanted. Okay, so it's done. So the second one was a sprinkler system. I think that's going to come up as part of another appropriation, which you thought was coming up at the end, the $45,000 one, I think. That will
Yes.
be accomplished there. Okay, it won't be an installation, but it certainly will be a study or a plan and specifications for it. That's accomplished. Even though it's not done, it actually sets it up to be done. Third was this HVAC system, and I think Michelle has to jump in on that one. I think you've got a $79,000 appropriation sitting in there to do that anyway, an assessment. Is that correct, Michelle? No?
So we don't
not-
have that.
You don't have anything on HVAC now?
We don't.
Oh, that's interesting. What was the R.W. Sullivan proposal for?
That was for the fire suppression study.
Just fire suppression. Okay, so HVAC is missing, I must say. So there is a miss here. Okay. And then lastly was this re-level the brick walkway. I can't offer a motion. I can tell you what I would recommend, and you guys can offer one or not. I'd recommend that you just move it as $12,000 just to re-level the sidewalk in the front of town hall. And in other words, what I'm saying is that with the exception of the HVAC, I think what's been accomplished is already in the select board's motions and in your motions. So most of it's there. So there doesn't need to be anything other than the fact that acknowledge that most of it's has occurred. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll redo the sidewalk as part of the MFB study anyway. I mean, that's going to be in the pipeline regardless.
Yeah. So all this is really an I'd like you an affirmation to say that I don't know what you'd say, something like the substance of the citizens petition is incorporated into most of the motions, both by the select board and by the capital budget committee, and we approve those motions, whatever. I don't know, something simple. That would be nice to have. Okay.
Well, I mean, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're missing though the HVAC, which
Yeah,
is in the citizens petition. And so one path would be for the capital budget committee to take a vote on the citizens petition. If we feel that, yes, we should include the HVAC work for the amount specified in the citizens petition, that we can vote that up or down. We can also, in the same motion, note that the first, I believe it'd be first two items in the citizens petition is already covered by the select board. So it'd be the sense of capital budget to recommend the citizens petition so that the HVAC work can take place for the employees in the annex.
How do we do that?
Well, just off the top of my head, Corey, I would say, and call this just a trial balloon, that we would, when it comes time to vote on the citizen petition, we vote, and I'll use the positive, we would vote to recommend the citizen petition, noting that items 1 and 2 are already funded by or recommended by the select board, and that the third item, the HVAC work, is recommended by Capital Budget Committee.
How do we recommend a dollar figure without specifying how we're paying for it?
Well, I don't know if we can specify coming out of this committee, but we could vote to recommend that it come out of our capital stabilization budget. So the HVAC estimate, and I'm going purely by memory, is, I believe, in the $50,000 range. I feel that we could weigh and the decision to reduce our floor, if you will, from the 920 some odd thousand less whatever we just last week allocated for the schools. I forget where it brought it us down to, but it was somewhere around 850, I think. And so that we would be voting to take it down to, say, 800 in order to pay for air conditioning for the employees in town hall.
So you'd go into the reserve, I don't want to call it reserve fund, but the reserve one, further down to the 1 million reserve
Yeah,
to add this.
as a maintenance item, as a necessary maintenance item. So those are some thoughts to chew on.
And Mike or Ralph, is it your thought that you would want this voted tonight, or I've heard words of, when it's time to vote this? What
I say yes. If you've got on the agenda the citizens petition, then we would take it up. And I'm suggesting that we take it up in the fashion I just described.
Let me throw in what I might suggest on this one, rather than trying to specify the amount that would be spent on the either chiller or anything else for cooling. My suggestion would be, like a couple of the others, it would really be bids and specifications for an HVAC system, which is a far less costly endeavor. For example, put 20,000 against that or something of the sort, in order to make sure that we actually know what we would be buying before we actually specify an amount. Because I've come to the conclusion that a lot of the argument that we have with the select board is the disagreement about the amount of money required for any one of these projects. So the best thing, in my view, has been always now to get plans, bids, and specifications in advance. And those can be then brought up in the fall, at the fall town meeting, when we can actually buy these things in the fall town meeting. And I'll give you a little bit of insight about how the employees are going to be cooled this summer, as I had a discussion with Chris Senior about this. And they have, as you may know, used air conditioners for the past year. So the chiller has been out of operation for about half a year, for more than a half a year. So he said that they would simply continue to install those window air conditioners this coming summer. So there is a solution there. So I'm recommending bids and specifications specifically for the purposes of determining the cost of actually doing an HVAC system. So that would be my recommendation. It's a way to get something, and then in the fall to decide whether you want to fund it or not.
So Ralph, if you don't mind, I'm a little confused on the timeline, because it doesn't matter what we do even if we magic wanded a bunch of money to fix the AC system and it could get done, it still probably wouldn't be done in time for like this summer. So we probably have to do the AC thing anyway. So your point about for the chillers, isn't it, now that we're on the train tracks of repairing 41 Highland, and we can have better conversations about what is needed for the HVAC system, wouldn't this be a really great thing to just have it special when we've got free cash certified and we can replenish our, and that's kind of what you're saying, isn't it? Which is, get everything we need ready so that way we can attack this as special.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, sure. Just get ready.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Michelle, do we need any more money to get ready for a special town meeting? I mean, at this point, do you need, is there actually something you need to move this forward, or what do you need what do you need?
So,
Tell me what
if
you need.
we are to do this and move this forward to study and get the plans and specs, as Ralph was indicating, I think you need an additional $10,000 to get that done.
Okay. Then I think that's the way I do it. Yeah, right, exactly.
So it would not require a vote.
I think you have to vote for it. Oh, sure.
Say again?
You have to move to appropriate $10,000 for plans and specs for the purposes of designing an HVAC system. I think you have to put some language like that in.
Right. And the vehicle for that would be the citizens petition, discussion and vote later today?
I guess that's really up to Brian, how you want to handle that one or where you put it.
Could I suggest that, I mean, if the committee, $10,000 to get a special town meeting, and I think both the select board and our committee has been pretty much on the same page about, hey, let's get this thing repaired. This is something, and again, I'm a stickler, my apologies, for my outburst last week, but the idea of, hey, we shouldn't be putting stuff on a budget. It needs to flow to us, right? We shouldn't be, putting things on that don't exist yet. So might I recommend we could volley this back up to select board, just like we did before, to say, hey, we'd also be potentially in favor for study money to be ready for special, and see if they volley it back to us. And if that seemed like a reasonable ask, I'm not quite sure how they want to do it, but I'd be much more comfortable that way. I don't think I could ever get behind us crafting a motion to spend money that wasn't brought to us as a request. So that'd be my recommendation, to get this done in the best manner if we want to get it done.
I think the issue will be that since the warrant closes tonight, there'll be almost no chance to toss it back, and I think that's the real issue here. So we probably need to have an expression of interest so they know if ever it comes back to us, it still can go on the warrant, because we have an expression of interest. We would approve it if, in fact, the select board agrees to it. So it's something you have to do something tonight, is my view. That's all. Yeah.
It could be it could be on the warrant that we give it to town meeting with the amendment and addition. It's not clean, but we could do it on town floor, with the warrant that gets given out, right?
Yeah, you could do it. It's the motion probably cannot have that specifically in it because it's not been approved in any place that I know of. The motion will have to follow more or less what the current articles are, and the articles don't contain it unless we put it into the article. Yeah. So.
But we've had additions at town meeting before, right? Where this is small. I mean, I think, of all the things, I mean, I think this would be a reasonable add if, at town meeting floor, if it gets to that point.
Oh, I agree. It would be an easy add. It's just less complex, less discussion.
Yeah.
In fact, we just put it in. That's all.
So I've just been taking all this in and processing it, and I have a handful of thoughts and questions. I don't want to interrupt if people are still going, but I'm happy.
We're just having fun at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Susan and Francine
Okay.
if they have anything that they'd like to chime in with.
Well, my primary question is, I thought when we left the last meeting, we weren't really sure how the citizens petition was going to be represented here. Was it going to be with the select board going to come to a conclusion with the citizens petition? Was it going to be withdrawn? I thought there were still a lot of questions. It sounds now like we're talking about what we're funding. I'm less adverse to individual items to fund, and still very confused over what the citizens petition construct is going forward. And is it being entertained by the select board and in the other committees?
So Susan, I believe last Thursday, the select board took a vote not to recommend the citizens petition. It was a 5-0 vote not to recommend the petition, but I think based on what Ralph is saying, it's because they have already approved so many of the components that are within this capital plan.
Right, which is what I'm saying is I'm kind of comfortable with the idea of supporting the components because we've talked about them at length. And we all know that we want to make, as Corey said, you know, we're dedicated to making improvements at 41 Highland, but it's kind of the elephant in the room is what this thing is and what it means going forward that I don't still understand.
I'm in the same position as Susan, I guess I'd say. I understood our, you know, our mission is to address those that are presented to us. This is not something I thought that was, I don't think is presented to us as a committee to vote on. And if the select board has voted it down, I'm not sure what we're looking to address. It sounds like though maybe there's just one item that isn't being voted on at all that is in the citizens petition. Is that right? It's the HVAC system that you guys have been talking about. Is that the only item that's not otherwise addressed?
Yeah, I think the other
Out
one
of
is
the
sidewalk.
the brick sidewalk, right?
Oh, the sidewalk, okay.
Well, and the fact that the petition has a $1 million, you know, thing out there undefined. So that's in there too. I mean, that's been my, you know, since day one, my biggest concern is, I think Brian phrased it well, the misunderstanding of what that means, right?
That's not in there, as you know. It isn't even in it's not even now in the information summary. That's gone. The actual total number is gone. It's really back down to individuals. So
How did you, well, I got the direct copy. It was submitted by the petitioner to town hall and included that language. He included that, so I haven't heard that it's been removed
it's
or
been
edited anyway.
it was resubmitted today by Peter Longley. So without the $1 million.
Can we get confirmation and or a version of that?
Yeah, I know.
And
Do you have it?
this is procedural. Can you amend a citizen's petition after the closure date?
The citizens petition is what the language in the petition is. The information, I actually asked Chris and he said, yes, you can actually change the actual information summary anytime you want. There's no limitation on that because the petition is explicit. And what people have signed is not, they did not sign a specific information summary. The summary is something that can even often comes far later. So, and as I can tell you, the information summary, I might be able to pull it up. I know that Peter Longley has sent it to me, but I'm not sure I can find it. But
Well,
nevertheless,
Peter's on. If Peter wants to send me a copy, I'm happy to share it.
okay, that would be great.
So Peter, if you can send over a copy, I can share it or send it to somebody on the committee.
So the 1 million should not be there. It won't be there.
So if it's been amended, then what is that? Does it go back to the select board to see if they're willing to take it up or no?
That has has nothing to do with the language that
Okay.
the petitioners signed. They signed 4 specific things, as we've gone through repeatedly. They did not sign specifically what the information summary would be. You never do that.
I see.
Yeah, it's just not procedurally correct.
But yeah, the informational summary is kind of to the point of what people think they're voting on.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it, you know, maybe not binding, but it is certainly important that we get that
It's
right.
important that see what it is. If Peter can send it along, that'd be helpful. I can look for it if you want, if Peter isn't sending it.
Anyone else before I share thoughts?
No.
Okay. part of what I wanted to say is exactly, Susan, what you said, which I think it's a lot easier to, at least for me individually, to wrap my head around, clearly defined individual items with a price, and with an explanation. With regards to the HVAC specifically, I guess I'm struggling to reconcile the request for a study, which if it's necessary, fine. But I was under the impression this was literally a 1-for-1 unit replacement of a defunct chiller with a like unit. So I'm not really sure what it is that we would be studying.
Is that
So-
base assumption true, Brian? I mean, I haven't seen any
But
documentation.
certainly
about what it
certainly
is.
the way I was explained in all the public sessions that I attended, which is we're literally going to replace the chiller, not replace the system, replace the chiller. And if that's true, it shouldn't require a study. It should require someone to see, whatever the spec is on that chiller and replace it with a similar spec chiller. And I'm not sure I recall ever, appropriating money for Nick to do a study at the senior center. Maybe I'm forgetting it, but we've approved a full, $500,000 system up there without doing a study. So I guess my first question is there actually a need for a study here based on what people are contemplating as a chiller replacement? And if there is, let's fund it and let's define it. If there's not, let's not.
The answer is yes. There's some question as to whether or not, and you'd have to have Brian Joyce on for this one, but as I understand it, they're not convinced that actually just replacing the chiller would be the right thing to do for the cooling of the building. So that you need to actually have someone come in and say, is this the optimal thing to do for that building? Because the other optimal thing to do for the building could easily be a split system. So you need actually some kind of plan or specification or engineering or thought as to what in fact you should do rather than replace a system, which probably is not optimal in the first place. So you need to get some information, and if you don't vote any money to provide any constructive suggestions as to what you're doing, then in fact you are stuck with the chiller as the only option. And I don't think necessarily, and if Brian is on, he can talk to it, but I don't think necessarily that is the right option based on what I understand of the chiller and the difficulties of actually reincorporating it back into a system which is probably a little bit old and might actually not be particularly desirable, to be honest with you. So.
Right. I hear and I agree with everything you just said, which leads me to the next question, which is 10 grand enough to actually do a study of what the optimal system is over there? Because I don't,
Right.
No,
Brian,
I don't think so. I think it's $20,000. That's what it usually.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Is it
I'd
20?
like
We've
to
had,
suggest.
Go ahead,
we've
that
had
Michael.
prior
we
quotes for
bring in Peter
$25,000.
Say it
Sorry,
again.
Michelle?
We've had prior quotes for $25,000 to investigate what the best design is for that building,
Okay.
whether it's a replacement or if it's a new split system. But the number we got was $25,000.
That sounds about right to me. Right.
Okay.
I wanted to request that we bring Peter Longley on as the petitioner and ask him what he intends with the warrant article 25 and whether there is a role for this committee to play or not.
Let me just pause on that for a second. I'll allow it. I don't object.
Do we want to take a vote on this or do we just want to invite him
If
in?
someone wants to object. We don't.
Yeah.
Peter, I'd ask you to recognize that we've, as a group, have spent hours on this at this point. So please focus on whatever's pivotal here and not rehashing it.
Thank you, Brian. So the petitioners are waiting in the wings, sitting on the edge, getting ready to withdraw the petition because the essence of the petition has been adopted and is going to be acted upon. I would concur that we need a little bit more money if you're going to want to do an engineered study, whether you want to replace the chiller. Certainly, if you're going to replace the chiller one for one, you don't need a study. I mean, it's no different than your toilet breaks. But we got to have a study before we decide which new toilet we want to buy. We have to pay a design professional to design a toilet. So, I mean, if you're going to do an energy analysis of the building to determine the size chiller that you need based on the loads in the building, that will require a study. And I don't know if 25,000 would be enough. I've been in enough of these meetings to watch how people tend to want to double things. But in any case, I think it would be great if you wanted to do a study. I think it would be even better if you wanted to just, replace one for one. I think it's a pretty expensive piece of equipment. I think the piece of equipment itself might be 50,000, and then you got to pay somebody to lift the old one off the pad and put the new one on and connect it. So it's gonna be a big ticket item, I think.
So
That
as
speaks
far
to-
as this committee taking up Article 25, is that something that the citizens petition group would like to see? Or if it's a moot point now, can we just move on without taking up the question of warrant Article 25, the citizens petition for town hall?
So the only two items that are not yet appropriated are this issue of HVAC and whether it's the actual replacement of the chiller or appropriating funds to prepare a design to select an appropriate replacement. I don't think the petitioners would have any grief over those two options. And it'd be nice to throw in the brick walk just to get it done. And then, I mean, at that point, I stand up at the town meeting and I thank the select board for effectively doing everything that the petitioners wanted to have done. And I will respectfully withdraw the petition.
Okay,
I
thank
think it'll be a win-win for everyone.
okay.
That's helpful, Peter. Thank you for that perspective.
So for the sake of officiality, can I just make a motion to defer voting on this pending the petitioner's decision to leave it on or withdraw the petition? Or do we just not want to do any motions at
That
all?
decision wouldn't be until the floor of the meeting.
You do have to wait now because you would have to get all 10 signatures to agree to withdraw it today. It really has to be at the floor of the town meeting. It would be petitioners move to indefinitely postpone. That's how that will be. That's how that will be phrased.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is it would be desirable if this committee recommended $25,000 for a engineering study or whatever you want to call it, engineering plans and specifications associated with an HVAC system. And of course, I would like you to have you do the sidewalk. Those are easy and they're simple and they're straightforward and they are specific items.
So Ralph, would you recommend a motion to that effect?
Sure, but I can't do it. You're somebody else. I don't have the authority to do that. So.
All right, and what I'm hearing is that this committee is not comfortable with making a motion to allocate funds when no one has asked us to.
Well, I think that both Peter and
Or
I
without the baseline information.
Peter and I would say we're asking. I'm a signatory of that document, and Peter is too. We're asking, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely in uncharted territory here, at least in my experience.
I mean, and I just kind of get back to what Ralphie said in the very beginning, which is a lot of this stuff is going to be ready at STM. So I'm struggling to understand how trying to backward something in for this town meeting really gets us any farther down any paths, right? We don't really have quotes or bids for the walkway, which we will get. And we don't really have quotes or bids for the chiller, which is in discussion. And it sounds like there's an A track and a B track. And this is kind of why it's better for the, like, just like we went through here, where there were 2 tracks and we ended up all in the same one. And that's how the process should work. It sounds like to me, the chiller is kind of on a few different tracks now, but by STM, we'll have both money to appropriate and an idea what we want to do. And since we don't need it really till the next summer anyway, why would we try to make something happen now when we're just going to do it better one time later?
Let me clarify that a little bit. What now we need to know by the time of the special town meeting is exactly what in fact we would fund and do. We won't have that at special town meeting unless you appropriate some money to actually create that document that says this is in fact what you should do to chill or cool the building. In other words, you need to do something now. Otherwise, at the special town meeting, all you can do is again ask for a study or specs and plans, whatever you want to call them, which in fact pushes it then, because that can't be implemented either because you don't have a number, you don't have a cost. That pushes it out to the regular town meeting, after which maybe you finally get something next year sometime if that gets appropriated then. In other words, you have to do something now so you can actually implement something in the fall. Otherwise, you have no way of implementing anything in the fall. You can't.
I think, well, but what I'm hearing from Michelle and the other conversations is that there's still kind of stuff internally we can do. And to Brian's point about, Brian's over here to me, sorry if he's over here to somebody else. Like we funded for the senior center, both study the engineering and the execution all at the same time. So I'm kind of imagining the same thing where once we choose what track we're on, if it really is, I bet we can get a little bit of a sensation about what we have to do. And then we'll have to spend engineering, design, and execution money. It sounds like there's still stuff we can learn before special to get us on which track we need to go. Unless, I mean, I'm totally wrong there, but that's kind of how I'm listening and hearing this.
Well, you're right. I think we do need the engineering. Basically, we need the engineering. I don't know how the 400,000 came to be honest with you, whether that was done. Was there money associated with an engineering plan initially?
There is money associated with it built into that.
So that's what happened, right? Yeah, but we couldn't put a number like $400,000 on town hall because we don't know what the number is.
No, we don't have any idea. I mean,
Can't do that. And so you have to have someone do some work to figure out what the number and what we would do and what the number is. And if you don't do that now, you certainly aren't going to implement anything in the fall. So, because you have no number.
All right, let me try this. As a suggestion to this group. One, we take no vote tonight. We have no recommendation one way or the other. And I base that on the sentiment that unless we have a specific request, generally coming from the town manager's office, from one of the department heads, we generally just don't take up a spend, and we don't recommend a spend that has not existed before. So with that logic, we just table this or just don't take it up because we feel that it's not within our purview. Or I don't even know if we need to put a reason on it, but just that we don't take it. I would ask Michelle and Chris Senior to develop with Brian Joyce a proposal to take care of the air conditioning so that it can come before us for special town meeting. And we'll have something to vote on that's been developed by the appropriate parties, which is the town manager's office or one of the departments, town departments. So that's my recommendation or suggestion, is we just don't take this up, and that I'm not sure what the right word is, but as a committee, we suggest or recommend or urge town manager to come back with a proposal for special town meeting to take care of comfort for the town hall employees.
Now, where would the money come from that Michelle and or Chris would use to actually get that?
That would
done?
be up to them to recommend where the funding would come from. As they always do. Am I right on that?
Not really. If it's not an appropriation, they can't spend for something for which there's no appropriation. There must, unless you have a catch-all. You can't do it. You have to have, every town meeting requires that you specify exactly how you're going to spend the money
So,
and how much you're going to spend.
It would,
How much
it would
money you
be,
spend.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing, a town manager motion to spend, I'll use the term $75,000 for 41
Whatever.
Highland Avenue air conditioning.
So
Yeah,
it
and
would be- so a capital budget line item appropriation, Michael, at STM.
That's special. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds totally reasonable and also the way this should work. And Mike, I think what you're saying is this committee is, in support of such action.
Yes.
Even though we
And I
haven't
think
officially
that's
taken a vote.
important for the town to know.
Oh, couldn't agree more.
So a few thoughts. First, Michael, I agree with you. I think your suggestion is is spot on, and at least by me well received. I've been sitting here pondering, looking off into space, not because I'm distracted, because I'm literally processing through a citizen's petition here that is evolving quickly. And I think it's fair to say that we as a committee do not have a lot of experience with citizens petitions for capital budget items, particularly ones that are moving as quickly and dynamically as this one is. I was having a significant amount of angst before your suggestions, Peter and Michael, about the idea of really voting anything on the citizens petition, because I feel, and this may be in the absence of legal advice, but I feel like the only thing I could possibly imagine holding a vote on is exactly, the words in the four corners of the document that is filed. I think it gets very dangerous and confusing to be voting something other than precisely what is said in the citizens petition. And it's clear that, that where this is going is slightly different in detail, but consistent in spirit with the citizens petition, which makes it really complicated. So Michael, first of all, Peter, I like your suggestion that these are, the town's converging on the spirit. Michael, I like your suggestion that it's kind of fraught with peril to actually vote this. Because at least I individually would have to vote exactly what it says at the moment of that vote. Which is really problematic given, how constructively this whole situation is moving. So that's kind of what was spinning through my head. In terms of, in terms of creating a capital request, I'm hesitant, as you articulated, Michael, to really, pick up a request that comes from anywhere other than the official channel. I think if the select board were to decide, based on our conversation right now, if the select board later tonight were to decide that they wanted to put a $25,000 line item on the capital budget, for this town meeting, there is still capacity in that $500,000 that we sort of left earmarked and didn't touch. Right. I mean, there's a few $100,000 coming out for the roof. The remainder is still there. So, there are funds earmarked for town hall, without dipping into the $1 million balance that, that we protect for every other department in town fiercely. And so there is capacity. If they chose to put it on there, they could vote it tonight. They could put it on there and not vote it tonight. And we could just deliver our votes at town meeting on that one item, that one line of the capital budget list. And I think that's, functionally perfectly appropriate. If they're not ready to do it tonight, we can do it at STM. So I think there are lots of ways forward that follow at least what I would perceive to be appropriate protocol. That's just me thinking out loud. And I'll pause there because I was just literally just sitting here processing this for the past 20 minutes. Thoughts, questions, anyone?
I'm just curious to what you would not agree to. You would agree to a roof. You agree to a new sprinkler system. You agree to an HVAC system. You agree to re-level the main brick walkway. What don't you agree
I
to?
can tell you exactly what I won't agree to. It's a perfectly fair question, Ralph. I
Yeah.
won't agree to the fact that I have no idea what the costs are. I won't agree to the fact that there's a borrowing provision, a blank check borrowing provision in here. I won't agree to the fact that I don't know if the HVAC is a replacement of the chiller or you know, $1 million system. I literally just don't even know what this comprises, and I can only vote on the words on the four corners of this document. And it's just, the information is just not there.
Brian, I just want to do a time check because I think select board is 7:15.
Yeah.
If we've got any cleanup voting we got to do, let's bang that out. We can return to this if we need to. But I don't want to cut anything off, but we have a functional.
I agree.
really
Look, I think this has been a really constructive conversation. Ralph, I apologize if I was surgically direct with my response, but you asked the question. Those are the things that would cause me to be unable to vote. So Corey, your point's accurate. I don't know if there's anything else people feel like would be constructive to move this forward tonight. But I think, you know, just I did suggest that if the select board wants to put it out there, we can certainly vote it at a subsequent meeting if they choose to put it on the warrant. And I think with a number and an explanation, it would probably be pretty well received by this committee, is kind of what I'm hearing. Any further thoughts on the citizens petition before we move on? Okay. Okay. That leaves us two additional items. One is 45,000 for the fire suppression study. And Michelle, can you just give us an update? And then Ralph, I'm expecting that you're going to have some fairly specific language you'd like on this, so we'll move to you next.
Right, you're right.
Sure, I wasn't at the meeting, but I believe the select board voted 5-0 to recommend $45,000 for a fire suppression study at 41 Highland Ave to include both the historic town hall and the annex.
Okay, where's the number come from, Michelle? 45 grand?
R.W. Sullivan. We have a number for the study.
Okay. And
I will-
do we or will we seek a second estimate?
Typically, we always ask for two different estimates anytime we go out to study.
Okay. That's it for me. Anyone have other questions?
Well, the only one again would be, if you're going to move this one, don't use the word study. You're actually appropriating $45,000 for budgets, plans, and specification for a fire suppression system and related alarm upgrades. You've got to do all of those, right?
That makes sense.
Motion to recommend $45,000 for fire suppression system budgeting, plans, and specifications and related costs at 41 Highland to cover both historic and annex sections.
You might put and alarm upgrade or something of the sort, I think, Corey, in that one, in your motion too. Right.
I will add alarms to the second line there.
Yeah, I think you
Plans,
need to do
alarms,
that.
specifications.
Yeah, right.
I'll second.
Great. Let's do a roll call vote. Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Mike Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
Corey Evans,
Corey Evans, aye.
and Brian Host, aye. Okay, and I think the last item, which falls into this same bucket of items not reasonably anticipated, is the evolution of the Chromebook request. I forwarded an email chain that I think summarizes the situation. The bottom line is, you know, there was further diligence done on the Chromebook fleet in total. It became evident that
I'm going to sign off. Thank you.
Sorry, Peter, thank you so much. I apologize.
Thank you.
Peter.
And again, thank you for your constructive suggestion this evening. It was extremely
My
helpful.
pleasure. I love working together.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that the school is comfortable requesting 75 instead of 100 Chromebooks, which brings the request down to about, 26,250 bucks as opposed to 35 grand. People seen the email chain. I don't know if there are any other questions or further explanation required.
No, not for me.
Okay, anyone?
26,250 is
26,250. Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
I don't
Okay.
either.
All
I'll
right.
make a motion that we amend our previous appropriation for the 100 Chromebook purchase for Deer Hill School to 75 Chromebooks at a total cost of 26,250.
We have a
Second,
great. And we will roll call vote. Mike Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Corey Evans,
Corey Evans, aye.
and Brian Host, aye. So I think that's it.
Thank you for all the due diligence on that behind the scenes. That was
Well, you as well. Thanks for
good
getting the spreadsheet. If I hadn't had the spreadsheet, I would have never noticed that the situation was a little different than perhaps we.
yeah, and the number that we ended up made a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
this is all behind the scenes, but there was really good work on that. So thank you, everyone.
And it was Lance did a great job of actually following up with the school and getting to the bottom of it. So it wasn't me so much as just asking the question, Lance chasing down a good answer. So I really appreciate the collaboration there. Okay, I'm not sure we have any other items. I don't think we do. So I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Before we do that, let me just say that we did post a committee meeting contemporaneous with the select board discussion that begins at 7:15. So if people want to join that, we can actually have a quorum on that call. I'm not sure they want to hear from us as a quorum, but I want to create the opportunity for everybody to dial in and not go to jail for it. So Michelle, hopefully you can handle logistics. We can get in easily, and I'm
So
not
I
even,
actually posted the link for the select board meeting, so it would just be as if you were going to the select board meeting. Tune
Okay.
in. If you have something to say, just raise your hand and I'm sure they'll.
I'm not sure there's anything to say other than the changes and updates that we just voted through, which you're welcome to summarize. I don't feel the need to, take to make an appearance on behalf of Capital. These are just requests, and if they have any questions, we'll be there. Somebody will be there.
Great. All right, I'm gonna head over there now with all these changes.
All right, so let's have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All right, all in favor, Corey Evans,
Corey Evans, aye.
Mike Dick,
Mike Dick, aye.
Francine Lyons,
Francine Lyons, aye.
Susan Franklin,
Susan Franklin, I.
Brian Host, aye, and Ralph Dormitzer, thumbs up. Thanks, everybody.